I'd like to acknowledge that all the black and white illustrations in my slides were beautifully created by Solmaz Jahangir, an Iranian illustrator based in Iran. Today, I want to introduce you to my client, Ali. The name and a few details have been changed for confidentiality. Ali is a 9-year-old Iranian boy born and raised in Australia, but his early years were far from typical. He spent 6 years in a community detention center with his mother. His father, 11 years younger than his mother, left the family when Ali was an infant, and after their divorce, the father remained largely absent, living in Melbourne, comes in and out of Ali's life only occasionally. Ali's mother fled Iran 12 years ago in search of safety, but instead spent 8 years in community detention. While she and Ali are no longer living in detention housing, they are still on a bridging visa with no permanent residency, leaving them in a constant state of uncertainty and instability. For the past 11 months, the mother has been living with his boyfriend, but their relationship has become strained with frequent argument, and now she's considering a breakup. Ali was first referred to STARTS in 2019 when he was just 2 years old due to concerns around aggressive behaviors such as hitting other children at daycare and a noticeable speech delay. The referral also highlighted a history of domestic violence during the time Ali and his mother were living with his father, which had impacted both of them and led to a recommendation for specialist support. In 2022, Ali was referred again, this time by the Children's Hospital, after experiencing severe anxiety and a regression in his stuttering. He was referred to me last year in December. His school reported concerns about his difficulty understanding safety, struggling with rules and instructions, and needing constant reminders. Socially, he had trouble engaging with peers, often leading to conflicts. And teachers also observed frequent emotional outbursts and high activity levels, making it really hard for him to stay focused in the classroom. To begin, I would like to share my initial impression of the client. Ali entered the room with a bright smile and high energy, having just been sent in from the schoolyard by his teacher to cool down. I noticed a few stains on his clothes, suggesting some dishevelment. When I greeted him in his native language, Farsi, his eyes lit up with surprise and joy, instantly establishing a connection between us. So next, I want to focus on Ali's experience of early relational trauma. Ali's early relational experiences have profoundly shaped his ability to regulate emotions and navigate social interactions. Developmental affective neuroscience, as emphasized by Alan Shore, highlights that early caregiver interactions are crucial for shaping brain mechanisms that regulate affective states. Ali's mother, who endured severe trauma in Iran, disclosed that although she was physically present during the first 2 years of Ali's life, she was not fully emotionally or psychologically available. So this disrupted right brain regulatory processes impacted Ali's capacity to regulate his emotions and develop secure attachments. As an infant, Ali struggled with excessive crying, sleep issues, difficulty self-soothing. So these are the early indicators of dysregulated affect. These early relational disruptions contribute to his current social-emotional challenges, including anger management, oppositional behaviors, attention difficulties in school. Ali's experience reflects the complex interaction trauma model, where resettlement is shaped by an interplay of biological, psychological, social, cultural, and political forces. Early instability, including community detention, disrupted attachments, and family conflict, has left him anxious, emotionally reactive, and challenged in forming connections. Culturally and politically, living on a bridging visa keeps Ali in a constant state of uncertainty, sending the messages of exclusion and invisibility. So what I'm trying to say is his trauma is not just part of the past, it's being shaped every day by the instability of his present. So When supporting a child with relational trauma, the focus is on strengthening protective factors, right? But for Ali specifically, building the protective factors is the priority before they can even be reinforced. So we already talked about the risk factors, the ongoing instability, the visa status, the stressful family dynamic, the increasing aggression from his mom's boyfriend, the relational deprivation due to mother's health struggles. These are all the risk factors. And in terms of the protective factors, Ali is energetic and positive, which helps keeps him engaged and motivated in therapy. He's expressive and outspoken, allows opportunities for emotional processing and self-awareness. He is socially connected at school, showing potential for positive connections despite his challenges. So before discussing the sessions with Ali, I thought it might be helpful to introduce the expressive therapy continuum. It's a theoretical framework that organizes media interactions into a developmental sequences of information processing and image formation from simple to complex. So when considering trauma and development, we look at when the trauma occurred and how that guides our choice of materials in our therapy. So our goal is to integrate all 6 components of the expressive therapy continuum. The continuum is structured developmentally, as I mentioned, starting with the kinesthetic sensory level, which is linked to the limbic system and early emotional processing. The next level, perceptual affective, is associated with the midbrain and processing of emotions and imagery. The highest level, cognitive symbolic, involves the prefrontal cortex, where meaning making and problem solving occur. Ideally, clients should move fluidly between expressive levels to support integration and balance. Yet, some clients may get stuck in sensory input, or some maybe get rigid thoughts or intense emotions. So our role as therapists is to provide a safe space that encourages access to all levels, promoting regulation, creativity, resilience, and inner balance. So I'm going to jump into my sessions with Ali, but before starting sessions, I would like to share quickly that I met with Ali's mom as part of our intake process to understand the family dynamic, background, and get the consent from son. So I met Ali in the counseling room at a school. He was already familiar with the STARTS and had a basic understanding of counseling. Using a trauma-informed relational approach, my goal was to create a sense of safety and connection through expressive art techniques. So before Ellie arrived, I set up structured art materials like color pencils, markers, creating an inviting space. To ensure his sense of agency, I reassured Ali that participation is going to be his choice. He could use any symbols instead of drawings. He could ask for help. He can refuse any request or stop at any time. And to explain confidentiality, we create a magic envelope, decorating and name it together, and we basically metaphorically explore confidentiality. To build our connection, I introduced a scribble drawing activity, a simple yet powerful technique that serves as both an assessment tool and intervention. This activity is a no-fail, no-risk method that supports motor development, eye-hand coordination, and emotional regulation by engaging both hemispheres of the brain. What I did, I placed a sheet of paper between us and I started moving my marker, inviting Ali to follow and trace my lines. He eagerly joined, but as you can see, carefully ensured our lines didn't overlap, revealing his need for control, structure, and personal space, a pattern that later evolved. We then reversed roles, with Ali leading while I follow. This shift allowed him to experience agency, joy, and connection within a safe space. This concept aligns with Donald Winnicott's concept of transitional space, where creative play bridges internal experiences and external relationships. So through this process, Ali not only asserted control in a safe relational manner, but also began to symbolically process his emotion. In the second session, Ali and I started with the scribble drawing again. From the point on, we continued using the modality at the beginning of every session, having a structured ritual that engages the senses and the body helps reinforce a sense of safety and connection. So in sessions 2 and 3, we used joint art-based modalities with various materials, fostering and engaging a safe space for Ali. So after this session, I met again with Ali's mom to offer psychoeducation on the importance of emotional availability. We explored how the father's absence and her own trauma may be affecting Ali's emotional world. I introduced mentalization-based strategies, which involves naming and identifying emotion as tools to support him during outbursts. We also ensure she has access to individual therapy, and throughout our session, I did my best to be mindful of cultural perspectives on fatherhood and emotional expression. In session 4, after beginning with our usual scribble drawing ritual, I introduced the Draw a Person in the Rain assessment, developed by Corinne McCovert, and serves as a projective tool that helps explore a child's level of anxiety, coping strategies, and perception of external support in stressful situations. Given Ali early relational trauma and possible sensory sensitivities, I chose to maintain structured art materials, ensuring a predictable environment. Ali took his time drawing, hesitating before placing the figure on the page. So the long pauses and a slow engagement suggested a tentative approach to self-representation, possibly mirroring his internal experience of uncertainty in relationships. So he used a blue pencil to draw the rain. If you have a closer look, the repetition of raindrops and the overall composition spoke to an underlying sense of distress. While drawing, I also noticed increased tension in his body, including shaking legs and involuntary movements. Once Ali finished, I asked for permission to sit next to him and explore the image together. Using a reflective stance, I gently said, "I see a person in your drawing." He nodded, but remained withdrawn. His mood had shifted since the beginning of the session, and his usual energetic presence was reduced. After a moment, he quietly said, "The rain is all over the place." The chaotic nature of the rain suggested a sense of overwhelm and emotional dysregulation. Maintaining an attuned and containing stance, keeping my tone warm and curious, I asked, "Ali, do you think the person needs help?" He shook his head and firmly said no. I responded empathically. It might be really difficult to be alone in the rain with no umbrella. How does that person feel? I'm just curious. After a long pause, Ali finally spoke. "You know what, miss? No one is around to help. This person is dead. He is dead." This moment was significant. It revealed an unconscious projection of profound loneliness, helplessness that was symbolically expressed through art. After this, Ali became withdrawn and low in energy. So to support regulation, I invited him into a mirroring game using movements and dance to release tension. Once he appeared more present, I introduced a bilateral drawing exercise, a sensory motor-based technique that integrates both hemispheres of the brain, promoting grounding. Sitting across from each other, I guided him through the process. Let's make random marks, move up, downs, back and forth. Now make circles, make them fast, slow them down, make dots with both hands, return to scribbling. So my goal was to create a contained and predictable environment where Ali could safely express himself through art. Winnicott's concept of the holding environment emphasizes how a child's well-being improves when they experience an attuned relational presence, a space where they feel seen, understood, and emotionally held. As Winnicott states, it's a joy to be hidden, but a disaster not to be found. So I believe this quote beautifully encapsulates Ali's experience in the session, especially through the lens of hide and seek in psychodynamic theory. The dynamic reflects the tension between a child's instinct to hide their vulnerability and their deep longing to be truly seen and understood by someone they trust. So Ali's withdrawal and his chaotic drawing reflect his struggle to balance hiding his distress while also needing emotional connection. So through the attuned presence of the session, he was able to shift from hiding to being found, offering a reparative experience in the therapeutic space. So I informed Ali that instead of asking many questions, we would use art to get to know each other. So over the following sessions, we engaged in scribbling games, various materials, allowing Ali to explore his experience on multiple levels. In session 10, my goal was to use art-based interventions to help Ali normalize his feelings, build a strength, and develop resilience. I invited him to draw his dream family day, providing a range of art materials, including pastels, pencils, and acrylic. I was curious to see how his ability to engage with different art materials had evolved and wanted to offer him a space to express and process any underlying anxiety that had yet to be addressed. As Ali drew, I observed improved coping and emotional regulation. He spent a good amount of time using a black pencil to add details like windows, facial features, and the kitchen, showing a greater tolerance for sitting with emotions. He also began talking while drawing, sharing that he had drawn two houses, one with his mother and another with his father, who lives in Melbourne. I noticed Ali's progression along the expressive therapy continuum, moving from the lower kinesthetic sensory level toward the cognitive, affective, symbolic levels. This shift indicated an increasing ability to reflect on and process his emotions symbolically. Ali identified his feelings through colors, explaining, I feel calm and positive when I am with my mom, represented in blue, and I feel energetic and happy when I am with my father, represented in red. I validated his emotions and gently normalized the difficulty of not having both parents together. Using an empathic and inviting tone, I asked, if you could talk to one of the colors in your drawing, which one you would choose? Without hesitation, he responded, the black, and automatically began filling the houses with black using his fingers instead of a brush. When I asked what he would say to the black, he softly replied, I would say, please keep us safe. We are safe together. So within the safety of the therapeutic space, Ali was able to externalize and give voice to his feelings of grief, sadness, and loneliness. I reflected these emotions back to him, naming and validating them while reinforcing that these feelings were completely natural. Ali responded by sharing that he liked learning about different emotions, and now he had the ability to pick a name for them. An important step in emotional awareness and self-regulation. As Alan Shore emphasizes, emotional regulation is an essential developmental process that is fundamentally relational. With the final session in mind, now I would like to share some reflection on Ali's overall progress and therapeutic outcomes. Ali is currently engaged in ongoing counseling. Also, his school has reported noticeable improvement in both his engagement and academic performance. His mother also has committed to her own therapeutic journey, and together they regularly participate in joint art-based therapy, offering a reparative space to rebuild trust and strengthen their attachment. So I'm very mindful of the time, but I would love to share my countertransference with Ali as well. So being with Ali, I had some deeply emotional moments. Hearing him share his pain in Farsi, my mother tongue, made it feel even more raw and real, bringing out a deep sense of empathy in me. As a mother, I couldn't help but see my own son in his face, which made it even harder to hold on to hope. One of the hardest aspects of my job, to be honest, is watching the cycles of trauma repeat. Children carrying the weight of their mother's pain while those mothers are still hurting from their own. So at times, this reality felt overwhelming, even hopeless, yet I held on to the belief that even the smallest positive relational experience in a safe, contained space could profoundly shape a child's emotional trajectory. Again, thank you so much for your time and attention. It's been a pleasure sharing this case with you.